Texas teachers under pressure tonight with record numbers leaving their contracts before the end of the year. See why it could spell big trouble for student learning. Plus, Bryan ISD students getting some hands-on training in cosmetology, giving them tools to come out of school ready to enter the workforce.
And the wind machine continues to crank across the area, and it looks like that any rain chances will probably be gone until maybe Sunday evening going into Monday. I'll explain why. Your 25 News starts right now.
Connecting the Brazos Valley, this is KRHD News.
Good evening and thanks for watching KRHD News at 6. I'm Brittany DeFran. As we're still seeing bluebonnets and other Texas wildflowers across Texas plains, many people are taking the opportunity to snap their spring pictures in the grass. KRHD reporter Rebecca Fiedler has more on when the search for the perfect shot can become illegal.
Whenever you stop to take pictures in a field of bluebonnets, you may be thinking, what's the best angle for my photo? Well, law enforcement say that you should also be thinking, where have I parked and what could I be walking into? There are a few precautions some people neglect to take when stopping for bluebonnet pictures, particularly when it comes to respecting the integrity of private land. Donna Gandy's family have owned land in Independence for 5 generations now. Frequently in the spring, families will trespass onto her elderly mother's land where red blooms grow.
They just continue to trespass on the property. And they're not even asking. You know, they don't even come out to the house and ask if they can take pictures on the land.
The Texas Penal Code reflects that it's important to ensure you're either on public land or that you have consent from a landowner to be there. Gandy says people have even parked in her mother's driveway to take pictures. And the feeling is very violating, especially seeing those photos shared in local Facebook groups.
After you see this day in, day after day after day after day, you see people in your yard, it finally just gets so frustrating.
State troopers also urge families to avoid parking on the edge of the road or in highway medians.
If you do just happen to want to stop on the side of the road, make sure you're fully off the road. Make sure you're fully on the shoulder. Put on your hazard so somebody can see something that's going on.
And while you're likely to see wildflowers all across grass medians, parking in the middle of a highway between those fast left lanes is especially dangerous.
Now you've got to figure out, how am I going to get back into that fast lane safely? It's even hard for troopers and officers to do it when they're trying to turn around into center median and make sure that they're doing everything they can to do safely.
Reporting from the Brazos Valley, Rebecca Fiedler, KRHD News.
A new report shows a record number of teachers have left their jobs in the last 6 months, many breaking contracts that could hurt or even end their careers. 25 News reporter Alicia Nespreto tells us why many are taking the risk.
A record number of teachers left Texas classrooms in the last 6 months, according to the Texas Education Agency.
It doesn't surprise me.
Jason Fleming is a former agriculture teacher in Killeen who left his job about a month ago.
Pretty much really been around education my entire life. And I never thought I'd end up quitting until the last 2 years.
Fleming said lack of accountability was one of the biggest issues to push him out the door.
They haven't been in a school setting in 2 years, so they still act like they're in 6th, 7th grade. And just the maturity level was terrible. They didn't want to do their work. And everything was always the teacher's fault.
Both his parents, his wife, and many friends are still educators, and he says they're also all being pushed to their limits.
Everybody's so burned out and fed up.
Texas State Teachers Association recently told 25 News more than 55% of their members are now considering a new career path.
This has been the hardest school year. And we're talking about veteran teachers in tears because of what they're seeing and how they're feeling. And we're seeing our new educators who have a year or a couple of years into the profession, and they just don't know how they can keep going.
As hundreds of teachers make their exit from education, nearly 500 have been reported to the state for breaking a contract in the last 6 months. That number up 60% from last year. If a teacher does break a contract, they could have their license either revoked or suspended, but for many, it's worth the risk to their career.
It's the constant attacks on how we teach, constant attack on how we're keeping our students safe, that's creating so many things that are just pushing into our school districts in a way that we have not seen before.
In Waco, Alicia Nespreto, KRHD News.
Fort Hood troops with the 1st Cavalry Division have spent the last few weeks at the Army's National Training Center in California. 25 News reporter Adam Schindler has an exclusive look at how the 8th Engineer Battalion has been proving their mettle.
NTC, the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, California, gives entire Army divisions the chance to show what they can do on the battlefield.
We have OPFOR, dedicated OPFOR that knows the terrain very well. We're coming to their neck of the woods, and they're giving us a good fight, but we're trained and we're definitely ready for them.
When most people think of a battle, they think of tanks and guns, but they need help reaching the fight. That's where the engineers come in.
People don't really understand what we can do for them. And maybe see us as more of a hindrance than an asset. So it's really our job to communicate that to maneuver battalions and present to them that we can help them instead of hindering them.
If you need to create an obstacle or get through one, it's the engineers that'll help you do it.
We've been using our breaching vehicles, so the ABV and the JAB, and then we have our sapper dismounts that get out and also either mechanically or explosively breach obstacles.
Getting the chance to test what they know in the NTC box is invaluable, especially for the junior enlisted soldiers who have never seen combat.
Pretty much we just rehearse, and we actually got to use it in this mission, such as lane marking, obstacle breaching.
Their mission at NTC showed them not only what these soldiers can do, but what these vehicles can do if they have enough room.
Here is just out open desert, so we're able to see the movement formations across the desert and practice those, move a lot quicker than we normally can up in Fort Hood.
Proving that engineers are essential to success on any battlefield. From the National Training Center at Fort Irwin, California, Adam Schindler, 25 News.
Tomorrow night, Adam shows us how a small communications team works to keep comms open during battle.
A new reality check on home values and cost. How about this? The typical home is worth about 20% more now than it was just a year ago, according to Zillow. Mortgage rates are now at a 12-year high. The rate for a 30-year mortgage hit more than 4.5% recently, and that is pushing typical mortgage payments about 38% higher than last year. Housing experts say while all of this has made affordability even more challenging for so many, it is helping cool the market off. Now, risky lending is more likely when there is a shortage of less expensive homes. It was a major factor in the Great Recession. Yet, 1 in 5 Americans still turn to alternative financing in the decade following the recession, according to new research from Pew Charitable Trusts. These agreements often come with higher payments and interest rates, also less protections for the buyer. The research also found that lower income and communities of color are more likely to sign up for non-traditional financing. Now, we know a number of people had to leave their jobs earlier in the pandemic due to childcare issues. They're returning to work now, according to federal data that was published today. Both parents are working in about 62% of families with kids. That's a rate which is nearly at pre-pandemic levels. It is a rebound from 2020, when the number of working families hit an 8-year low.
Especially for the wives and the mothers, they were more likely to have to quit their job to take care of the child care, and so that really fell on them. So I think with more moms and wives being able to get back into the workforce, we'll see that trend increasing.
Today's report also shows the ongoing inequality in the labor market. One family member was unemployed in 6% of white families. That is compared to 10% of Black and Hispanic families. That gap is smaller than it was in the early 2000s, and researchers believe that more could be done.
Something else that corporations could do is rethink some of the credentialing that goes along with their jobs. There are a number of jobs that for example, may require certain higher educational degrees or things of that nature that really could be done by somebody who've gotten reskilled or upskilled.
Now, the employment rate for single moms with kids under 3 dropped during the pandemic and remained low in 2021 while the expanded child tax credit was in place. Experts say with the credit gone in 2022, more of those mothers could end up back in the workforce. Bright lights and reflective glass on buildings are killing migrating birds.
One building alone, may have had as many as 500 or 600 birds.
We're going to take a look at the growing effort nationwide to keep this from happening.
In tonight's Consumer Alert, Volkswagen is taking aim at Tesla. The automaker is making a push to take this top spot in electric vehicle market. Volkswagen announced it will phase out all gas-powered vehicles from its U.S. lineup within the next decade. From then on, it will only sell electric cars. The company plans to spend more than $7 billion over the next 5 years to boost its EV research, development, and manufacturing capabilities. The National Retail Federation has joined a group of lawmakers calling on Visa and MasterCard to cancel swipe fee increases. Both companies are planning to increase those fees this month. Retailers are charged swipe fees every time a customer buys something with their credit card or debit card. Experts say if those fees increase, businesses may be forced to raise prices on consumers in order to make up for the losses. Netflix is considering major changes that could impact your wallet. The streaming service says it may start charging higher prices to people who share their passwords, but it's also considering a cheaper subscription, which will include ads. The move comes after the company lost 200,000 subscribers so far this year, taking the company's stock. For the Oreo lovers out there, it turns out if you're trying to get the perfect twist, you'll be trying forever. Researchers at MIT are studying what they call Oreology. This week, they released a report saying it's impossible to get a perfect distribution of cream on each cookie. They even created a machine called the Oreometer to perfectly split the cookies, but found the cream almost always ends up on just one side.
Our Clark Roofing Cam sky in motion showing we did have some sunshine earlier in the afternoon, and then more clouds started to build into the area, bringing us partly to mostly cloudy skies. And it has been a relatively warm day, and it will probably stay that way over the next 24 to 48 hours as we'll have warm afternoons and some muggy nights on the way for the rest of the week. Storm system that passed to our north, providing some showers and thunderstorms across Arkansas, but that's moving in the wrong direction for us. You can see the atmosphere drying out on the satellite picture a little bit across the northwestern parts of Texas, and some of that mid and upper level dry air will make its way in here. So we're not anticipating much in the way of rain through the rest of this week. Maybe an isolated shower, maybe a little drizzle to start off our Thursday morning, but that should be about it. As we head into the afternoon hours, partly cloudy skies, temperatures warming into the upper 80s. Maybe feeling like 90 when you factor in the humidity. So yeah, we're going to have to start tracking that. And then as we get into Friday morning, again, there will be a chance for maybe some drizzle in the morning. I don't think we're going to see much in the way of measurable precipitation. And then as we head into the afternoon hours, partly cloudy skies, and it will be warm and humid across the area, along with plenty of wind to go along with it. So tonight, temperatures will be into the upper 60s and lower 70s, so it is going to be a muggy night out there. And then tomorrow, highs get up into the mid to upper 80s, and again, the humidity sticks around, and so does the wind at about 20 to 30 miles per hour. And looking at your forecast, 88s Thursday and Friday with those gusty southeast winds continuing, and not much of a chance of rain probably through Saturday. Even most of Sunday is looking quiet. I think best storm chances will be northwest of us on Sunday, but late Sunday, we're talking after sunset going into Sunday night and Monday morning, we could have some scattered showers and thunderstorms on the way as a cold front moves in. That will take us from the 80s down into the 70s for a couple of days before warming right back up by the middle and end of next week.
Hundreds of millions of birds are traveling across the country right now as they migrate from warm weather climates back north. But bright lights on buildings are posing a real threat to many of them. And as Maya Rodriguez tells us, communities across the country are banding together to turn the lights out for the birds. And we want to warn you that you might find some of the images in this story disturbing.
Soaring skylines gleaming against the inky darkness. It's a defining feature of most cities, but these towering triumphs come with a dark side.
Basically around 1 billion birds here in the U.S. are killed by running into buildings.
1 billion birds killed every year in America, in part because of the bright lights of buildings.
We get those things with broken bills. They're flying so hard and so direct. And when they hit that building, it's a hard impact.
Ornithologist Jason Weckstein is with the Drexel Academy of Natural Sciences in Philadelphia.
These are one of my favorites, and they're often window kills too.
More than 220,000 birds are carefully cataloged and studied here.
They must have either hit a window or hit the building.
We do know that birds are attracted to light. So a lot of these birds are nocturnal migrants. And nocturnal migrants use a variety of cues to navigate while they're migrating in the spring and the fall.
One night in October of 2020, it all went terribly wrong in Philadelphia and several other cities in the Northeast.
When this was reported, people were like, oh my gosh, we have to do something.
Thousands of birds died in a massive collision that night, just in Philadelphia alone.
It's such poor light. They were fairly small.
Keith Russell with Audubon Mid-Atlantic and program manager for urban conservation collected more than 1,000 dead birds within 2 blocks.
One building alone, may have had as many as 500 or 600 birds.
The problem is twofold: bright lights on buildings and the use of reflective glass in their construction. So Keith and others decided something needed to change.
Glass is a difficult thing to do anything about. So one thing we can do to stop these collisions is to address the light issue. So we do that by enacting lights out programs.
Lights out programs are now in place across the country in more than 40 cities, from Baltimore, Cincinnati, Detroit, and Indianapolis to Milwaukee, Jacksonville, Denver, Salt Lake City, and beyond. It's a voluntary program. From midnight to 6 a.m., many downtown buildings turn off their lights during the spring bird migration in April and May, and again for the fall migration.
When they're migrating, they need to have ways of finding their way. And one of the ways they do this is to be able to detect the Earth's magnetic field. And that involves them being sensitive to certain wavelengths of light.
Turning off the building lights, as seen here in this time-lapse video Audubon shared with us, can help birds migrate safely. But it's not just skyscrapers. Homeowners can make a difference too during migration season.
Well, people that have homes can do the same thing. They can turn their lights out at night, pull down shades, pull down blinds, pull down other window treatments that will block a bird's ability to see into your house after the sun goes down.
Almost every single one of these is a building kill, all these fresh ones.
It's a simple step with not one, but 2 potential benefits.
You turn your lights down, you don't spend as much on electricity, and you may be saving some birds that way.
In Philadelphia, I'm Maya Rodriguez.
Inflation is stressing people out. Maybe you can relate. New research is showing that almost half of American workers are financially stressed. 20% regularly run out of money between paychecks.
We mentioned inflation. So in general, people are having to spend more to get the same stuff. Another reason is, although wages are going up, for many people, they've got less money coming in because government programs, COVID relief time programs have kind of come to an end. Added to that, the fact that so many people, 68% from our survey, don't have money set aside, saved for emergencies.
A growing number of people are making risky financial choices. The number of people using payday loans has tripled in the last 12 months. 18% of Americans used an online installment loan that offers a lower interest rate and longer term than a payday loan. It can still cost you hundreds of extra dollars in interest or late fees.
The financial stress exists among all income levels, pretty much all income levels. So there are things that we need to do better. We need to borrow more smartly. We need to borrow in a way at lower interest rates, that doesn't mean that most of our money is going to interest costs. We need to save better. We need to be more disciplined at having emergency savings and putting money in them.
More than a quarter of U.S. companies offer a loan program and worker benefits packages. Those loans are paid out of future paychecks and have a lower interest rate than riskier options like payday loans. Other companies offer emergency savings accounts. Those take a small portion of each paycheck until you need it in an emergency. You can set up a similar system yourself using direct deposit and a second bank account. Now, there could be new hope for the millions of people with food allergies. Tomorrow, we're looking into a treatment in the works for peanut allergies and how it could also possibly be applied to other food allergies as well. But still to come today, concrete waste is getting new life in the ocean. How more places are turning it into reef habitats.
We've all heard about the Great Resignation by now, some even calling it the Great Reassessment. While many are now leaving their longtime jobs, Bryan ISD is providing students with a chance to ensure they're chasing their passions. For some, answering the question, what would you like to be when you grow up, is simple.
I've always had like a huge passion for hair and makeup since I was a little girl.
Sharonda Williams, a Bryan High graduate and one of the first students of the cosmetology program, enjoys educating the next generation of stylists.
That part of it is huge because then I got to come back to my alma mater and be a part to help enhance the program in a whole nother aspect.
Prepping students for their state licensing exams. In order to earn their license, these students must complete 1,000 hours as well as some additional courses.
You have to take like an extra class for it, like a business management class, but it was so worth it because it taught me about customer service, and then also doing it in my first year, like our intro year is what we call it, was really enlightening.
Although during the pandemic, the cosmetology industry experienced a huge hit, these students are ready to welcome clients back in the classroom.
We are definitely welcoming people back in, and we have had a success of that. Not as many as we were, so hopefully next year will be even better.
Students like Brianna Parnell even say the program is preparing her for life as she moves to college.
I definitely see like me being more of an adult, and cosmetology has definitely helped me get there. It's definitely helped me learn problem and solution and learn how to just become my own person without influences from other people.
New tonight at 6:30, a new report from TexasRealtor.com shows home prices in Bryan and College Station increasing almost 14% in the last year. But sales weren't as big. KRHD News reporter Chris Talley shows us what's behind the numbers.
It's simple, supply and demand. Jamie Stanley, owner and chief development officer of Home Realty, says there may have been more sales in 2021, but as for 2022, it's a different landscape.
The supply is down. We have way more buyers than we do properties to sell. So if you go out on a Saturday and you're out showing at 9 a.m., you're going to wait in a line like it looks like a garage sale.
According to the Q1 quarterly housing report conducted by Texas A&M Real Estate Research Center, the average price for homes in the Bryan College Station area have increased 13.7% at $269,000 plus compared to last year. Stanley attributes why exactly that number keeps rising.
When you have a home that, goes on the market on Friday and it has 14 offers by Saturday morning, those offers just keep ticking up and up and up.
With more offers means a higher price hike, even if the difference is just a day and goes in effect immediately.
That's labeled in our appraisal district, and it's labeled as the price, and that's now the appraisers are going in and looking at all these prices, and everything's appraising at this value.
On average, home listings and closed sales have been declining, while a typical home will be on the market for an average of 82 days before it's even sold. Stanley gives a few tips on what to look for when buying your next home in these circumstances.
So the biggest advice that I have for anybody coming in is to do your due diligence. You need to find a good lender, especially a local lender that knows the market and knows the area.
Stanley says stay local when it comes to lenders and realtors rather than going to a national chain who isn't based in Bryan College Station. And especially when it comes time to buy, have your money ready.
Make sure that you have that money set down for down payment. You may not have the highest offer, but you can win in turn. So putting down that earnest money or that good faith money in a bigger sum can a lot of times help, because it shows that you are invested and dedicated to that property.
Although homes don't appear to be flying off the shelf as they were last year, Stanley says right now it's a seller's market in the Brazos Valley. In Bryan, Chris Talley, KRHD News.
The newsfeed starts with more countries sending weapons to Ukraine. Weapons from the U.S. arrived over the weekend. Britain, Norway, and Holland are all sending military equipment. This includes anti-tank missiles and air defense systems. The head of America and China's militaries spoke today. It's the first time Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and his Chinese counterpart have spoken since Austin took the job. The U.S. has been concerned that China may provide support to Russia in its invasion of Ukraine. And speaking of China, 4 million more people in Shanghai have been allowed to leave their homes. COVID restrictions are easing in China's biggest city. The country is enforcing a zero COVID strategy, which has led to very strict lockdowns, though overall COVID numbers there are relatively low. The United States produces about 500 million pounds of concrete each year. A lot of that is used to build and maintain roads and bridges, but concrete is also the largest source of construction waste in the country. Alexa Liacco shows us the effort to keep that waste out of landfills and put it in the ocean instead.
You look around and these places are pretty special in my opinion.
For many, the beach is a place of peace. It's vacation. But our beaches are much more than a getaway. They're a refuge for wildlife and home to a multi-billion-dollar tourism industry in the United States.
I mean, anything that we can do to preserve them or conserve them is something that I think should be done.
Jordan Byram has dedicated his career to keeping the beaches in his home state thriving.
We have 69 reefs throughout North Carolina.
His biggest project, building new reefs using stuff that otherwise would be thrown away.
Concrete pipe is a very commonly used reef material in North Carolina and elsewhere on the Atlantic and in the Gulf states. For the marine environment, they don't contain contaminants or oil or grease, anything like that that's going to pollute the environment. They're also inexpensive.
Sometimes it's free. Millions of tons of concrete pipe is thrown away every year by transportation departments across the country. Jordan's team is keeping that out of the landfill and putting it into the ocean. He shared this video of the reef habitat the concrete eventually will create.
Marine life grows on the concrete really, really well, and it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
These new concrete reefs will bring fishing opportunities to areas that need them and protect the shoreline when storms come in.
They'll actually reduce some of the wave action that's up next to shorelines and reduce erosion or prevent erosion.
All these reefs, both natural and man-made, make a huge impact. The U.S. Geological Survey estimates reefs in the United States save Americans $1.8 billion every year by stopping flooding damage. Reefs also generate thousands of jobs and $100 million each year for the tourism industry through things like fishing trips and diving excursions.
Putting materials at reef sites ultimately benefits all of these communities because of just the sheer number of people that come here to visit.
In recent decades, more than half of living coral reefs around the world have shrunk or have been damaged. In the last few years, Jordan and his team have created dozens of reefs along the East Coast, even seeking a Coast Guard ship to create a reef where people can now fish.
I get to go home at the end of the day and feel like I have accomplished something. There's something tangible. We put something in the water, and other people can go and then enjoy that and utilize that. It's really nice.
He's now helping other states across the country start their own reef projects like this, because by giving new life to tons of trash, it will build something we can all treasure. I'm Alexa Liacco.
All right, Alexa, thank you. Now, high construction costs are part of what's driving a new housing trend.
It's not just a cookie cutter home that you put in a subdivision. It's a lifestyle choice.
We will take you inside what makes that lifestyle choice unique. Next.
Our future track this evening into the overnight hour showing more low clouds rolling into the area, and there will be a chance for some drizzle. This also showing a chance for some isolated showers, and I think that's going to be the key word here, isolated. I really don't see much in the way of rain, at least measurable rain falling in the morning. But again, drizzle will be possible. Partly cloudy skies Thursday afternoon. It's going to warm up. Highs will be into the upper 80s, and we're just going to press the repeat button here for Friday, as we will have clouds in the morning, maybe a little bit of drizzle clearing out in the afternoon. Highs will be into the upper 80s. It'll be warm, windy, and humid over the next couple of days as we round out this work week. So tonight, temperatures will fall down into the upper 60s and lower 70s. We'll go about 71 in Bryan College Station, 69 in Hernan Franklin. Then tomorrow, highs will be into the mid to upper 80s. And again, with the humidity, it'll feel a touch warmer than this, as we do have that moisture around in the lowest levels of the atmosphere, but not enough to really make it rain across the area. Again, there's your pair of 88s Thursday and Friday. Maybe a very slight chance of a shower on Thursday. Southeast winds blowing 15 to 25, gusting to 30 miles per hour. So it is going to stay quite breezy across the area. Saturday and most of Sunday's looking good. Highs will be in the upper 80s, lows at night near 70. We may get a thunderstorm chance in here late Sunday. I think the best chances of rain will be northwest of here Sunday, but late Sunday after sunset going into Monday, scattered thunderstorms will be possible as a cold front kind of slides on into the area. Highs will go from the 80s down into the 70s, so it will cool off for a couple of days, but we will see it return to the warmth as we head toward the middle and end of next week.
Well, it may seem like business should be booming for streaming services like Netflix. The news feed starts with Netflix seeing an unexpected drop in subscribers. Netflix is working on ways to cut down on password sharing. Yeah, so you might have to end up going out and get your own account. They are looking at less expensive plans as well. Now, for as much as affording college is a struggle, we talk about that often. Now, those who are coming out of school this spring are in high demand because employers plan to hire at least 30% more new grads this year compared to last year. That is according to numbers from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. Companies are trying to close a talent gap that has widened in the pandemic. Now, while you may see more people traveling, hotels are having a tough time. They expect to be down about $20 billion in business travel this year, according to industry estimates, which is nearly 25% lower than before the pandemic, of course, before so many people started working at home. The FDA is warning that pregnant women should know that blood tests that screen fetuses for genetic disorders. The agency says the tests can produce false positives and are urging women to talk with their doctor about genetic conditions instead. A New York Times investigation found that false positives happened 80% of the time. The FDA is reiterating that the tests do not have their approval. They can be sold and advertised because they fall under the category of lab-developed tests. Now, when you buy meat at the grocery store, you may notice labels that say antibiotic-free. Now, this type of meat has been deemed a healthier option by the World Health Organization, but there's a new study that says some of those labels are misleading. The Antibiotic Resistance Action Center found that 15% of meat products labeled this way still contain some amount of antibiotics. Now, the Food Safety and Inspection Service says it is looking further into this. All right, mosquitoes, it's a tough fact of summer, and they can reach our skin even through a long sleeve shirt. But there may now be a new solution to that.
Why not buy clothing that's bite-proof? If you're going to buy a jogging outfit or something to wear to the park, it can look like everyday clothing.
We are going inside the lab, working to create those mosquito-proof clothes. Construction costs continue to be high, and that has some people getting creative to get a custom home. We're going to go to Elizabeth Ruiz, who's showing us the new type of home increasing in popularity.
There's a growing trend in rural America. People are building barn-dominiums, and it's exactly what it sounds like, barn mixed with condominium. And the idea is that you're building a customized open concept house, and the trend is likely here to stay.
At Worldwide Steel Buildings in Peculiar, Missouri, steel structure kits are put together and shipped out from coast to coast.
So this is our manufacturing facility. We produce around 30 to 35,000 pounds of steel a day.
Wow, there's a lot going on in here.
Jeff Snell is the CEO who bought the company in 2016.
Since 2016, our business has grown 300%, and over half of our sales are now barn-dominiums.
According to Barndominium Life, an online resource that teaches people about building barndominiums, the popularity of this style of home can be attributed to Chip and Joanna Gaines, who coined the word on their show Fixer Upper.
It's not just a cookie-cutter home that you put in a subdivision. It's a lifestyle choice to be out in the country and live in a barn-dominium.
I hadn't heard of it until my sister Victoria told me she was thinking of building one.
How did you first hear about barndominiums?
I think we just started researching like ways to make a custom home that would be more affordable, because like construction costs are very high right now. Lumber costs are really high right now. And so we were like, we're just going to have to get creative.
Interested in starting her own horse therapy practice, Victoria says the barndominium style would be very ideal. Snell says barndos are a favorite among people with outdoor lifestyles.
We see people finish off, a third of their building and then have the remaining of the building for all their toys, boats, RVs, four-wheelers, golf cart.
With vaulted ceilings and an open concept, Jeff says the inside of a barndo is a blank canvas.
Walking this way, this is going to be our pantry.
Morgan Ropke and her husband are building a barndominium near Springfield, Missouri.
It is a 2,800 square foot home with an 800 square foot garage. We started building in August and we hope to finish in the next month or so.
Morgan says she and her husband were attracted to the open concept and rural aesthetic of a barndominium.
We want to have our friends and family over. We want to do cookouts and we want to do bonfires and we want to have parties here.
She says they really value time with family.
My mom and dad's house will be right there where you see the construction happening.
Oh my gosh.
So they literally could be like, maybe,
Oh.
So.
How sweet.
Yeah.
Morgan says she has spent years researching barndominiums to become a self-contractor. She also remodeled their last house. But she wants people to know anyone can build a barndo if they have the knowledge and motivation. That's why she now offers a course to other people who want to be a DIY home builder.
I do think that because it made it easier for us to self-contract, that made us a lot of money. If we had gone the traditional route and been forced to use a general contractor, then it would have been far more expensive, probably 30% more expensive.
Some barndominiums are all wood, others all steel, and Morgan's is a hybrid between the two. Jeff says demand for these types of homes is growing, and he thinks that demand will continue.
We see our customers, younger couples first starting out for their starter homes using steel buildings, but we see a lot of retirement couples too. They want to retire to the country on 10 or 15 acres.
Morgan says she, her husband, and her 4 kids are super happy with how their barndominium has turned out. She even let her little girls paint their own rooms.
This is our house. We built this house so hands-on, and it is us.
I'm Elizabeth Ruiz reporting.
All right, Elizabeth, thank you. Now, most Americans in rural communities lack access to physical bank branches. That's what a new analysis from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau finds. The Federal Reserve has identified 1,500 rural communities across the country as banking deserts. This leads to many people seeking credit from non-banks and going into debt because of it. The White House wants to help get more money to those places. It is launching a program called the Rural Partners Network, and that will reach 25 communities in the states that you see right here. Federal employees will be sent to live and work there so they can help locals navigate government funding opportunities, and there are plans to expand the program to more states. Well, it's that time of year when mosquitoes are starting to come out across the country. Chloe Nordquist shows us that some researchers are working on a different type of solution to them that we can actually wear.
Mosquito bites are not pleasant.
And it takes and it wiggles that mouth part through the threads in your clothing.
And sometimes even a shirt can't prevent them from getting to you.
They can bite through animal fur, they can bite through your clothing.
But at this lab, Michael Rowe and his team are developing something to change that, using mosquitoes they raise in-house.
We've been able to develop a series of parameters that every textile has. And by having the right combination of those parameters, you can prevent a mosquito from biting through that textile.
That is chemical-free lightweight fabric that's mosquito-proof, and it's gone through many tests.
There are different tiers of testing. The first tier is an in vitro system that we've developed.
In this small cage full of mosquitoes away from humans.
If it's successful in preventing mosquito bites, then we go to what we call tier 2, which is where we put the cloth around a subject's arm.
The third test is covering a person with the garments and putting them in a cage full of mosquitoes. So far, it's looking promising. They're hoping to make full garments and do even more testing.
From that, we can make a decision whether we have a garment that's bite-proof.
Why the focus on such a small insect? It could be life-saving.
It transmits disease and has caused more death than any other animal on the planet.
Rich Cohen runs a pest control service.
Mosquito season typically starts in early spring when the mosquitoes become active through the middle to the latter part of fall.
The CDC calls mosquitoes the world's deadliest animal because they transmit diseases like malaria and viruses like Zika. For example, in 2017, 435,000 people died from malaria. Millions become ill each year. The team behind this new mosquito-proof material hopes this is just one more solution to help curb those numbers.
I'd like to have something out on the market soon. However, we need a manufacturing partner that makes the textile.
Mark Self is in charge of commercializing the invention, which has been stalled due to COVID.
We feel like we have a unique way to market in that we've got an organic, chemical-free story to tell. Our aspiration is to be an ingredient brand for name an outdoor apparel manufacturer.
Why not buy clothing that's bite-proof? If you're going to buy a jogging outfit or something to wear to the park, it can look like everyday clothing.
And it's not just for clothing. Through this process, they have found that these tools can be used beyond what you find in a department store.
There's been a lot of unexpected outcomes from this. For example, an egg textile that prevents insects when it's covering a plant from getting to the plant and eating the plant.
I'm Chloe Nordquist.
Thanks for watching KRHD News at 6. I'm back tonight at 10. Until then, have a good evening.